is Wednesday, my dudes, and guess what? Guess what? You are watching The Sweat, presented by Paramount Plus. Watch local NFL on CBS Games live with Paramount Plus. That is clutch. You need to keep that in mind because there's an important game tomorrow night.
Kind of. All right, he's Emerson, and I'm Jesse, and we are bringing you a special edition of the show today because we're cool like that. Dedicating the entire hour to NFL. 2022 NFL season. It feels so good. Kicks off in 33 hours from now. 33 hours.
Yep, can't confirm. And because yesterday was such a massive success with Reed, Jeff, who's going viral, and Pierce, we've decided to bring Reed, Jeff, who's going viral, and Pierce back for today. This potentially award-winning show. We're going to start on the sports book side of things, Jesse Cofield.
That is absolutely what we're going to do. So let's start with some of the higher profile bets here. Okay, so Josh Allen has been the front runner for MVP since the odds were released, right? I mean,
yeah, it's a no-brainer.
Tom Brady, though, currently sits second at plus 850. So, Jeff, how surprised are you that TB12 is, like, so high on this list?
I mean, not very surprised. It's the same phenomenon as, you know, in golf we see with Tiger Woods. I mean, Tiger Woods does anything, his odds get cut in half. Tom Brady, I mean, he won the Super Bowl. I mean, it was 2 seasons ago. It's not like he's anywhere near the end of his career like Tiger Woods is. He's got a legitimate shot to win it. And when you get a player this high in sentiment and who just casual bettors love to rally around, and some casual bettors love to hate as well, but Tom Brady is going to get a lot of attention, and that's just how sports books work. When more money comes in on a player, their odds are going to get cut down. So it is strange. I mean, I don't think he deserves to be the second favorite in this category at all. We're talking about a player who took 11 days off in the offseason, two offensive linemen down, Godwin not in, working with like a guy in Julio Jones at the tail end of his career as well. I mean, I definitely think that there's other players who should be ahead of him in odds, but you know, Tom Brady is going to Tom Brady. He's going to be popular. The casuals are going to bet him. And for that reason, if you want to bet him, you got to bet him as a second favorite right now.
Pierce, what are the chances that a quarterback doesn't win this award?
About 0.
Yeah.
It's a quarterback award, and that quarterback's going to be Tom Brady again. What has really changed? The NFL hasn't changed. Does he have a noodle arm? No. His arm looked pretty good and strong last year. Does he still know how to read defenses? Yeah. I disagree with Jeff. I believe over the course of this season, this wide receiver core or the pass catchers he's going to throw to are going to be pretty amazing. And last but not least, Tom Brady is dying to get out of the house. He's probably not going to be at home at all. He's going to dedicate himself completely to football. That's why he unretired. You heard in his most recent press conference complaining about his family. We love Paramount Plus here, but I'm sure he's tired of sitting at home watching iCarly reruns with kids. He's going to be completely focused on football. Big time season, 60 touchdown pass.
Pierce Dietrich, always over delivering. I love that about you, Pierce. Way to bring it close to home.
Okay, Reed, question for you. Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, both listed at plus 5,000. Those are the closest non-quarterbacks on the board. Pierce is saying like this is a quarterback award. Do you agree, or maybe one of these guys has a shot?
No, I agree with what these guys are saying. What I'm a little bit worried about is all this viral activity for Jeff. It's probably going to his head because we can finally actually see his head. This is the first time I believe he's been on this show without a hat on. So that's one thing that I want to point out because that's shiny. It's a shiny dome, and we need to see more of it. But these guys are right. This is a quarterback award. It's an individual award. It's not going to go to wide receiver. It's not going to go to a running back just because it these guys have to absolutely storm the. And look, Jonathan Taylor had one of the best seasons, right? And this was now in a running back by committee design in the NFL. That's just what it is, right? And even though we don't have the Adrian Peterson type of workload anymore, and if we do, it's Derrick Henry, but he doesn't profile as a guy who catches passes out of the backfield. So you need to be doing everything, and all of the quarterbacks that are ahead of him have to basically perform below expectation. So these guys are right. I don't think that Jonathan Taylor or even guys like Christian McCaffrey, who are the most talented, can win this award. It's probably going to go to a quarterback, and his name is Kirk Cousins.
Oh, I love that. Jeff Ulrich absolutely hates that. Pierce Dietrich, so we just kind of delivered the sportsbook argument there, but who do you guys have in mind as a potential DFS MVP of the 2022 season?
Well, I can't say season-wide or long why we'll have a MVP in DFS. It's going to be a week-to-week thing, and for me, it's going to be mobile quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson. You know, on any given week, these guys are going to explode for big points. I can't see Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts constantly putting up big numbers every single week or beating each other, because some weeks it'll be Patrick Mahomes, or maybe even Trey Lance is going to get in the mix. Justin Fields is going to have a couple of days where he'll have a field day. You just got to play the mobile quarterbacks. Again, I don't know if there's going to be a season-long MVP, but on a week-to-week basis, these guys are going to tear the league up. Hey, even Daniel Jones is worth a mention. We talked about his rushing upside last season during several occasions. Now he's got a head coach that allowed Josh Allen to run all over the place. So Jones is even going to be in the mix. It's all about the mobile quarterback on a week-to-week basis for DFS MVP.
I mean, Reed T. Fowler, you got Josh Allen as the favorite on the sportsbook side. Would he be your favorite on the DFS side? By the way, his tight end, Dawson Knox, just agreed to a 4-year contract extension, expected to make him one of the top 5 highest paid tight ends in the league.
Most up-to-date updates is right, man. That just hit the wire there, Emerson.
Hell
Well
yeah,
done.
babe.
Yeah, Pierce named all the quarterbacks, so we can basically go down those. One guy that I have my eye on is DeAndre Swift. I don't think he ever gets above in that elite pricing, right? That $8,000 pricing that you see the other running backs, and he could absolutely be one of those guys. It's just he plays for the Lions, so he's another one that I would take a look at. And to Pierce's point, we're going to get running backs and players that are going to be irrelevant by week 6 or 7 because of injuries, or even before that, than right now, right? So those guys as well. But right now, it's the mobile quarterbacks and DeAndre Swift for me.
All right, Jeff Ulrich, any reason to disagree with these guys?
Oh, no, I mean, in the general overall premise of Pierce naming every quarterback in the league, no, absolutely not. I mean, he's right about the mobile situation. What it's going to come down to, and this is why I'm pretty bullish on Trey Lance. I do think that Trey Lance is a player who could absolutely break the league this year. And just by the end of it, it's just like, I mean, you're rostering him every week. Similar to that season that Lamar Jackson had. What if the San Francisco defense isn't that good? I mean, the huge benefit, the huge upside, why I'm so bullish on San Francisco, Trey Lance is going to give this team opportunities to win shootouts this year. Like, if they get behind, what is Trey Lance going to do? He's going to be bombing it downfield. He's going to be taking off for more runs. He averaged 12 rushes per game in his 2 starts last year. I can't keep hammering that home enough. This guy will take off and run, and it'll just lead to more big plays, and it's going to lead to a ton of fantasy points. I think from the running back side, a sleeper is Saquon Barkley. I mean, again, top 5 draft pick. He's got an offensive-minded head coach now. The Giants have an easy schedule. They have no wide receivers. I think Saquon Barkley could honestly have a chance to lead all running backs in receptions this year. He's going to be on the field a ton. So I'm looking at Saquon Barkley. I'm looking at Trey Lance, 2 guys who absolutely, by the end of the year, people will just be putting in their DFS lineups because they're just going to be so automatic, such heavy usage. So much fantasy points.
And Pierce Dietrich naming every quarterback, giving me major PTSD from our golf conversations when I would ask you like a mid-tier golfer you like, and Jeff lists off all 40 in the mid-tier.
There's just too many, the scrubs. I mean, the scrubby golfers. It's my thing.
All right, let's go back to the DK Sportsbook, guys. So under the season specials tab, Buffalo and Tampa both at the top of the board again when you look at the bet for most regular season wins in the NFL. So Buffalo is sitting at plus 450, Tampa Bay plus 500. Jeff, is there any other team that could sneak in with the most wins? Packers right there at plus 650.
Yeah, I mean, look, like there's a ton of teams we could talk about in this category. I mean, you know, there's obviously, we all like the Eagles. I think the Eagles have a very soft schedule. They're definitely worth taking a look at. Much like yesterday when I brought up A.J. Dillon and everybody had a heart attack on this show, I'm going to bring up a team at long odds. It's the New Orleans Saints at plus 6,000. Let's look at scenarios here. This is a team with the top 10 defense. That defense is going to give them a chance against pretty much everyone they go up against. What if the Bucs do? What if my fortune telling comes true for once and the Bucs regress because of this O-line issue, because of injuries? It could absolutely happen. This is also a team in the Bucs who just hasn't been good against the Saints in the regular season anyway. So we've got a weak division. We've got a team with the top 10, maybe top 5 defense. And then we've just got, you know, like other teams on the schedule here who I think the Saints could take care of. They've improved their offensive ability with the addition of Olave and Landry. They're maintaining their on the defensive side of the ball. It's a very solid team. And if you're looking at the odds, again, this is really just a value play. Why are they around the same odds as teams like the Commanders and the Titans? This is a much better team than a lot of the teams they're surrounded against. And again, it just comes down to odds. If you're looking to play a team in this category with longer odds, I would take a hard look at the Saints. If things do fall into place, I think it's a team that could post 14, 15 wins.
Pierce, Jeff moving all the way down to a team that is 21st on the board down there. What do we think?
I'll slide down a little, but not that far. Give me the Chiefs at plus 800. I know the sentiment is that the AFC West has improved, but at the end of the day, the Chargers are still going to be the Chargers. They have let us down the last 2 seasons. I don't see what's really going to change there. The Raiders just don't have the defense to knock out the Chiefs. Broncos offensive line has issues with an aging quarterback, with receivers that haven't quite proven themselves. They have high expectations there, but they never get the job done. Meanwhile, we've got the Chiefs that just continue to win season after season. Yes, they lost Tyreek Hill, but was he really the only reason that that team was rolling game after game, season after season? You got Andy Reid still. You got Mahomes, Kelsey. You've got a pretty deep wide receiver core, deep running backs. The defense has improved. I like the Chiefs at 800.
All right, Reed, who do you like?
Yeah, I mean, Pierce naming off a team who has the second toughest or first toughest schedule based off of like team total wins from this year. That's going to be tough, and that's I think a bold prediction about the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are going to be great, but I don't necessarily know about most wins. And Jeff is very, very bullish on the Saints. I'm with him on that, but I would want to like pick and choose my spots with the Saints if you're betting them for futures. Let's make this simple. It's the Eagles. Like, we love their offense. Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, they're running backs. They have a stable of running backs that are decent. I think Pierce laid it out pretty nicely yesterday. And their defense is really strong. And look at their schedule. They start off with Detroit. They're going to lose to Minnesota. But Washington, Jacksonville, Arizona, Dallas, Pittsburgh, Houston, Washington. That's like their first 8 weeks. They could easily go 7-1 in their first 8 weeks. And then their schedule down the stretch, they play in a weaker division. So give me the Eagles at plus 1,800, I believe you can have them. So you're not going so far down, and you're not getting too short at the top there.
Jeff, like the Bills and Bucks are at the top of most categories here in the DK Sportsbook, but the Chargers plus 700 to be the last team with an undefeated record. Who are you riding with here?
Yeah, so this one is easy. I'm definitely going with the Eagles at this one at plus 1,400. I love the odds on this. I really love this bet, to be honest. Let's break down the Eagles' first 9 games. Their toughest game in their first 9 games is on the road at Arizona. Arizona, a team who is literally taking practice squad players right now to fill out their secondary. That might be the only game where the Eagles aren't favored in their first 9 games. They do have Dallas, but they're at home against Dallas. They got a couple other like decent teams in there, but we're talking Commanders, we're talking Giants. They open, I believe the Jags are in there. They open against the Lions. Like, well, I mean, some of these games obviously could be close and they could lose them, but they're going to be favored in pretty much every single game. This is an amazing opening schedule, and they're at plus 1,400, double the Chargers, the Rams, the Bucks, who have like legitimate, playoff contender teams to deal with. No, this is where you take the Eagles right here. Last team to be undefeated, because their first 9 games, absolutely, they're going to be favorites or just very, very small underdogs at worst.
I mean, Riti, in this market, you also have to take into play like when a team's bye week is as well, right?
Right, but Jeff, I know this is when I know Twitter is going to Jeff's head. I just named off their first 8 or 9 games in that last question, so you just repeated exactly what I said.
Yeah, he does this a lot.
Different question.
But it's the same answer.
What do you want me to do? Pick a different team and be?
Well, I mean, I would hope that you would have more than just one answer to a question. But yes, look, the Eagles are there. But since I can't basically do what I'm yelling at Jeff at, because I do like the Eagles because of what I said earlier, it's the Green Bay Packers. A.J. Dillon, right? That's Jeff's boy. I get it. And they're plus 900, and that's intriguing. Right, if they get past Minnesota this Sunday, they have a pretty, and it's going to be a dogfight with New England. It's a pretty decent and easy schedule for the Packers. I think a lot of people are down the Packers, including myself, but they could come out and definitely start 7-0. That's Aaron Rodgers' MO. He wants to be basically underappreciated and underrated. They definitely have a path to 7-0 until they face the Buffalo Bills in Week 8.
All right, Pierce, who you riding with?
I don't care about Reed's rules. This isn't Good Morning Football. Say whatever I want to say. I like the Eagles, and I don't care if I repeat what Jeff already mentioned. Look, if Reed could put his Vikings bias to the side, he would clearly see that it's going to be the Eagles that are going to walk through this. And he can still like the Vikings. He can still like Kirk Cousins as MVP and that offense, and they can lose a shootout to the Eagles. However it works out, the Eagles are the better team. They give you the better odds. Take the Eagles.
All right, good stuff, guys. That is all we have time for. Coming up next, we're talking all things football. Crazy, right? This show's all about football, including will Lamar's contract situation impact the Ravens this season? Spoiler alert, probably.
All right, Team Gojo joins us next. We got Brandon, we got Mike Jr. standing by, so hang out, folks.
You need to check out the Gojo Show every weekday to hear former Notre Dame teammates Michael Jr. and Brandon Newman offer their unique perspective on the hottest topics across sports, across pop culture. It's very cool. You can grab the show wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, the iHeartRadio app, and more. But you can also check the guys out right here on the show right now.
Yeah.
Right here, right now. Right here,
hey,
right now.
Good job,
right here.
Mike. Yeah. You called Notre Dame covering. You know, they hung in there for a little while, kind of fooled us. They're going to be really, competitive there. And then, hey, they covered. You got it right. So congratulations there.
Great teams cover, man. Listen, we don't need all the slander walking in here. We're all having a great time.
I'm a Notre Dame guy. I'm a Notre Dame guy. I love you guys. Come on, man.
That's not what he says when we're off camera. I'm just
saying. Don't go there. Don't you dare start rumors. All right, so since we're off to a hot start, let's talk NFL. Because one of the biggest storylines right now is Lamar Jackson, right? And that Lamar Jackson, this contract situation, it's not going to be a distraction this season. I believe you guys had him on the pod recently. Is that correct, Mike?
Yeah, so we had Lamar on the episode that actually posted this morning.
Sweet.
And I got to tell you, it really does not seem like it's going to be a distraction. You talk to the guy, and he's just all locked in on what he's got and what he believes they have in this year's team. We've all heard about the training camp stories of Isaiah Likely, the tight end out of Coastal Carolina, that's come in and really inserted himself into that position group with Mark Andrews. That's such a focal point of this offense. He did mention they have managed to overcome the emotional loss of their mascot, Poe, the injury in the last preseason game. We know that's a big deal to a lot of Ravens fans. But no, this quarterback and head coach, and that was a relationship we talked a lot about, seem to always be in such lockstep that I think we can expect a big bounce back season from a team that outside of their mascot is going to be light years healthier than they were last year.
All right, Brandon, but based on y'all's conversation with him here, it doesn't sound like it's going to be a distraction for Lamar, but what about his teammates?
I really feel like they're following his lead. He's talked about being a bigger vocal leader going into the season, which I'm sure is going to be big for him and all the people that are around trying to follow that offense. I think they believe the hype that he's focused on the season, and I think they know that Lamar Jackson wants to win a Super Bowl to add leverage to that contract negotiations. Like, he wants to have a season that mirrors or rises to the level of the MVP level season that he had, so he can actually get the bag for a longer point in time and get extended out and be a Baltimore Raven during the entire contract.
So, Mike, he's kind of betting on himself here, but I can't help but think about like what went down with Dak too. You know, he kind of bet on himself, and then we saw the injury. Cowboys still paid him. I mean, that would have to be on my mind. Like, if I was in that situation.
That's why you're not an
NFL
NFL
exactly.
I would say that's a realistic fear, especially because we know Lamar Jackson's such a potent part of the run game and all these different areas where you cringe at the thought of that. But I would say, number one, the franchise and the quarterback, despite how long this has taken, have always been very publicly, I think, pointing to the fact that everyone wants to get this done and that Baltimore loves Lamar Jackson. But also Lamar, for himself, put on about 15 pounds this offseason.
Hell yeah.
Camp, he looks a lot bigger. It's Bulkin season, brother, and Lamar Jackson is ready to go and turn that loose on the league.
All right.
He's his own agent, so that doesn't shock me. It's kind of playing out like this. Guys trying to like focus on kicking ass on the field and making
Taking
a lot of money.
names.
Take a name. You got it, Mom.
Speaking of taking names, let's take a look at the DK Sportsbook here. Bills are the favorite to win the Super Bowl at plus 550. Brandon, are they your favorite?
Definitely not. I'm a Ravens fan, so I'm going to be a homer here. Because listen, the Ravens are sitting there at the bottom. They're sitting there at the bottom of that top 10 in DK Sportsbook. I think you got the Cowboys at 2,200, and then the Ravens at 2,000. I like that. I like where the Ravens are. My money is where somewhere between optimism, logic, and odds that actually give you a little payout. So I like those teams near the bottom of that top 10 actually peaking in the right time, especially in this long NFL season that we have now.
Mike, you're not going with the Ravens. Come on.
I am not going with the Ravens, but I'm also not going with the Bills. And I understand they are going to be one of the easiest, sexiest picks this year. They've got a tougher schedule than we probably talk about, but they play in the AFC East that has a lot of teams still figuring out their identity. I like the Super Bowl matchup as Chiefs and Green Bay, and I think this is the year Kansas City gets back on top. A little bit of Ewing theory at wide receiver. So much has been talked about of the departure of Tyreek Hill and the effect on that offense. And I know it's limited action, but we saw in the preseason, I think, what's going to be the MO for this team throughout the year. Behind an offensive line they did the hard work on last year in resetting, Patrick Mahomes is going to get back to spreading the love. They've got a variety of different receivers. Juju Smith-Schuster is a big body guy. Sky Moore is the speedster. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is another guy that can take the top off a defense. I think this group is motivated in all the right ways and constructed in all the right ways to get back to where Patrick Mahomes and company believe they belong.
Well, Mike, I'm looking at the Steelers here, plus 9,000 to win the Super Bowl. They've got a quarterback though now. We got Mitch Trubisky. So how do you think that? Stop doing that. How do you think this will benefit your Notre Dame?
Do they have a quarterback? No, I'm just kidding. Go
your
ahead.
Notre Dame compatriot here, Chase Claypool, dude. 9 touchdowns his rookie season, right? Somewhat of a down year last year. So can we expect a bounce-back campaign for your dude?
So I think as far as looking at some of his season stuff, I think his touchdown over-under is set at 4.5. Dropped down to 2 last year, and we know there's going to be a lot of mouths to feed on this offense.
Yeah.
George Pickens out of Georgia has drawn rave reviews. Deontay Johnson is the number one in that room. Pat Fryermuth's a great tight end target. But we also know this offense is probably going to struggle overall, I think, to get in the end zone because the offensive line is still such a big concern. So I look at the yards total, 725.5 for him at DraftKings Sportsbook for a guy who, even in last year in a down season, was up over 800 yards. He's been up over 800 yards both his seasons in the NFL so far. And I think now that he really gets to be the focus, as we hear it all the time, I think Nate Tice at The Athletic calls it the power slot. You get him back in that slot where he can really work in the gadget plays that are such a big part of Matt Canada's offense that's now in year 2 in Pittsburgh. And I think you have the makings of the over for that yard total him, even if the touchdowns may not be there overall for this team this season.
Yeah, Brandon, you're going to stay away from maybe the touchdown prop. He collected only 1 of his 12 end zone targets last season. And as Mike mentioned, you got Pickens there now, Deontay Johnson, a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah, I feel like the touchdown prop is one you shouldn't touch, but that receiving total yards, good teams cover, but also good receivers cover. And I think he is a good receiver. He's trying to work his way into that great level. And I think there's, like you said, more mouths to feed. I think what's going to benefit him is the Mitch Trubiskys of the world, or maybe even the Kenny Pickett when he gets out there. Those quarterbacks new to a team, they like to lean on one specific wide receiver and kind of just feed them and feed them and feed them. I think that's going to be Chase Claypool. He'll prove to be some consistency for this Steelers offense that should be up and down all season.
Okay.
All right, let's go like broad here, Mike.
Okay.
What do you think is going to be the biggest surprise of the NFL season?
So it's like a bold prediction?
Kind of,
Yeah.
yeah. Go with it.
Well, I heard Emerson talking about wearing a Jacksonville jersey on the show.
Yeah?
And I got to tell you, I think it's the Jags offense. I think now that Trevor Lawrence has an adult in the room, you're going to see them light it up. Now, don't get me wrong. This is still not going to be a team competing for anything material on the field, but I think we're finally going to see the number 1 pick and one of the most talented quarterbacks coming out of the draft in recent memory get what he deserves. They spent money in that wide receiver room, bringing Christian Kirk over this offseason. Travis Etienne is healthy in that backfield, and finally, I think, going to be the gadget guy and the off-speed pitch that they were looking for next to James Robinson. And I just think all of this calm now and having a guy in the room in Doug Peterson who we know can work well with that position is finally going to allow him to start to maximize all of that incredible ability and hopefully give him a chance to have the career that we all want. So many great quarterbacks are undermined by the position they find themselves in. And I think this year Trevor Lawrence takes that next step and this Jacksonville offense shows some signs of life.
Hell yeah.
Emerson can barely continue.
I love this journey for
barely
it's
contain
nice.
himself.
It's nice to have someone, here on the program who actually can make sense and realize and open his eyes that the Jaguars are America's team. A team of destiny, baby. Let's go.
Every time you talk about this team, it's like your pupils just dilate and you just spew nonsense.
I mean, the Jaguars are in Florida, so they are a legitimate drug, just by nature of being within the state of Florida.
Right.
They
Hell
are
yeah,
This
man.
is like
to a narcotic.
Florida man.
Florida man. 53 of them on that roster. Let's get weird, Brandon.
Oh, God.
The only thing I'll push back on, the Detroit Lions are America's team. And I will hear nothing of the opposite.
Okay, all right. We'll take this off air because I'm not very happy with you now.
All right, Brandon, bold prediction. And don't say anything nice about Jacksonville, please.
Oh, that would be easy. Other than the fact that Limp Bizkit is from there. I believe.
Yes, dude.
But,
Yes.
I'll say this. The big surprise for me, for everyone, should be that Malik Willis is going to end up being a starter by the end of the season. I really like what we saw from preseason. We know Ryan Tannehill is just Ryan Tannehill, very bland. I think Mike Vrabel is going to get off his high horse and start respecting the talent that he drafted that fell into his lap late in the draft. I like the concept of one of these guys that's supposed to sit all season long, proving himself and end up a starter, almost like what you saw with Jalen Hurts his initial year when they just couldn't keep him off the field in Philadelphia.
The basis for Limp Bizkit, we went to the same high school.
That explains a lot, actually.
I know. It's pretty cool, right? He didn't end up graduating. It is what it is. He's highly successful, but anywho. Guys, it's also fantasy football season, all right? So what is the best fantasy football punishment that you've seen make the rounds, like, on the interwebs right now? I'm seeing a video pop up on my timeline, like, every day, Mike.
So I know it's jumped the shark probably at this point. There's been so many copycat players. But when it was first introduced, the Waffle House Challenge that the loser of one fantasy league had to do was a triumph of human ingenuity. And I think fantasy football is one of those things that ends up pacing the rest of life as far as technological advances. We find different ways to torture and torment people in this one specific avenue, and to do it by way of waffle over a 24-hour period inside maybe the most entertaining diner in America. I mean, the amount of fights that you can probably see in a 24-hour period inside any Waffle House have to be spectacular. So that would be my vote, even though now there's probably been too many imitators, but the original still stands in very high esteem.
So that is you're in the Waffle House for 24 hours, but every waffle you eat, right, takes an hour off of your punishment there? Correct?
Yep. Exactly, which seems like for especially guys of me and Brandon's ilk would be pretty easy.
Oh
but
my God,
as someone who at one point in time drunkenly put an entire Waffle House waffle in my mouth and ate it in one bite, it's amazing how quickly that expands to fill the space once it hits the bottom of the barrel.
It's because people don't talk about it enough. Waffle House waffles are more like pancakes.
Yeah, they are very
dense.
thin.
Yeah, my
like
toxic trait is I'm like, I could eat 24 waffles.
Dude,
No problem.
Brandon,
No problem.
Brandon, you're out of there in like 3 hours, aren't you?
Oh man, I really Waffle House is one of my favorite places, so I feel like I just take up residency there. You know what I mean? Maybe,
Yeah, why would you want to leave?
Yeah, ask for some sports takes. Get the people, the cooks from behind the bar, come sit down. Let's talk. How's your day going?
Yeah.
It's like this booth here. We have a plaque in your honor. We have named this booth after you. Brandon, is there what's a punishment that's really stood out to you?
Now, when I first started following this, I saw there was a foster puppy challenge where you have to take care of an animal for an extended period of time, and it's the name of a team that you don't know and love. So I like the idea of a Giants fan taking care of a beautiful little Dallas Cowboy puppy for an extended period of time, like that. The one that adds the responsibility and gets you messed up emotionally. I like that type of stuff.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I have one to add because actually some guys I went to BC with had one where the loser had to take the SAT.
Oh, I've seen that.
And that's pretty brutal.
I'm an ACT guy, but yeah, that SAT is tough.
Did you say
Yeah.
the ACT?
Yep. There's also the piercings. I mean, some people have gotten piercings in some
Rough.
odd
tattoos.
locations.
Rough.
I don't have a belly button ring, if that's what you guys are asking.
I don't know,
We
dude.
don't believe you.
I don't know. I can Google that right now, and I guarantee you there's probably a picture of you with some
All
kind of
right,
piercing.
all right. It is time for the Gojo Rose of the Week. So, Mike, where are you going with this?
So I'm actually going to go with something that just happened today. We saw the
Yes.
reports from ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter that the Bills had reached a 4-year contract extension with their tight end Dawson Knox, who is coming back and will now be one of the 5 highest paid tight ends in the league. We know for Dawson, it's a lot bigger than that. This offseason, his family suffered the tragic loss of his brother, Luke Knox. He had been away from the team until recently, dealing with that as a family and going through whatever they had to as a grieving process. And so we all know how powerful sports can be for people that have dealt with tragedy and people that are trying to rely on the teammates that they know so well in a place that I know Dawson Knox has such an affinity for. And so while this whole season I'm sure is going to be difficult for Dawson and the Knox family, I am glad to see that the Bills have made a commitment to this guy, that this community will continue to wrap their arms around him, and that hopefully he can find some small bits of joy as the season goes along. So Dawson Knox, really, really excited for this guy and wish nothing but the best for him this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well said, man.
Gojo Rose of the Week, Brandon.
It's hard to follow up.
Yep,
But,
it certainly
as you
is.
can imagine.
Maybe we should have
I
started
hope
with
it's
you.
something heartfelt and deep, or we'll judge you. Continue.
Yeah, no, this is for Jimmy Garoppolo, the Eastern Illinois alumni. Will you accept this rose? As someone who thinks that starting for a football team is overrated, I love this move of him taking the back seat, taking less money. All of his money is tied up in him just showing up for games and not getting traded and helping Trey Lance along. The fact of the thing that's been the issue with Jimmy G is him not just having that killer instinct that Tom Brady has and just taking it. And he's just like, you know what? I'll just take a back seat and I'll sit here and watch Trey Lance. And he may know something that we don't. I feel like all the incentives that are tied up in his playing time, I feel like he may think that he might be helping the 49ers out more soon than 49ers fans are really thinking with Trey Lance at the helm.
All right,
Love that.
guys. Good stuff as always. The Gojo Show, everyone, their latest episode this morning. These guys catch up with Lamar Jackson, one of the biggest names in football, little contract situations. So go give that a listen. Grab the show wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. That's
Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, the iHeartRadio app, and more.
All right, cool. Love you guys. We'll see you next week. We have more NFL talk coming up next. We got a new panel, fresh panel of DK contributors who will answer the question, can the AFC West actually send all 4 teams to the playoffs this season? What?
Welcome back to the Sweat. Like we said, we have a new panel. DraftKings contributors Nick Fryer, Julian Edlow, and Jeff Pratt are here for an NFL preseason preview. Part deux.
Part deux.
So what are the best plays in Sportsbook and DFS for the NFL season? Pretty
Okay,
self-explanatory
sounds
here.
good. That new panel smell.
Oh, it's the best.
It's so great, especially Nick Fryer. All right, so we got some team specials on the TK Sportsbook. Some interesting questions to help us preview this season. First one we're looking at here. Any division to have 4 teams in the playoffs? Maybe
AFC West, maybe? Question mark, question mark?
I mean, there
exclamation point?
Anything else you'd like to add, like a period?
Umlaut? I don't know.
All right, Fryer. Fryer, if there's any division that is going to send 4 teams to the playoffs, which has never happened before, like it would have to be the AFC West, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I do think that, like, for this play, yeah, I think it's one to entertain. We did see with the NFC West last year that they had 3 teams make it, but just looking across the board, like, yeah, I know, in earlier segments, guys were talking about some teams maybe upsetting divisions, but every division you look across the board, it's like, yeah, that last place team, no shot. But then you look at this division here, the AFC West, and you think, okay, they got Russell Wilson. That's the team that I'm thinking is going to be third. There's some maybe you're going to think it's going to be the Raiders, still Derek Carr, Devontae, Waller, all that stuff. I'm like, okay, you just need them to go and have like a fairly even season against the rest of the division, and then pretty much take care of business against everybody else.
Jules, what do you think here, man? So, yeah, again, since the AFL-NFL merger in 1970, there has never been a season where every single team in a division finished, even with a winning record.
Yeah, I have a better chance of smelling Nick Fryer than 4 teams from the same division making the playoffs. These are 4 really good teams, sure, and I think that's why we're talking about it. But, like, there's a reason it's never happened. It's because you beat up on the teams in your division. They play each other 2 times each. Like, things have to go perfectly outside of the division for these teams to get there. And they're good teams, so they're gonna win games, but all 4 of them aren't gonna get there. And now you're also, when you bet a future on a team, on a win total, on a division, whatever, you absorb injury risk. If you're betting the yes on this, you're now absorbing the injury risk of 4 teams. Mahomes, Herbert, Wilson, Carr, any of them go down, now you're probably losing because now that team becomes a doormat for the division. The other teams run over them, and that lone team doesn't get in. So there's so many ways that this one can lose, and according to NFL history, no ways that it can win. So I'm out.
All right, Jeff Pratt, you're out as well. You seem like a smart man.
Thank you, Emerson. I'd like to consider myself a smart man. I am out on this. I think there's no way this happens. Maybe if the AFC West was a division in the NFC this year, but the AFC is just so stacked with talent. These 4 teams are just going to beat up on each other. They're going to get at least 2 teams in the playoffs, maybe 3, probably 3, but 4 just seems outside the realm of possibility here. And then as Nick said earlier, looking around the rest of the league, every other division has at least 1 dud, so this isn't going to happen.
All right, Jeff, could we possibly, hear me out, have an all-LA Super Bowl? A Rams-Chargers matchup is plus 550.
We absolutely could have an all LA Super Bowl, and that would be hilarious because I think it would be the record for the least amount of fans for the 2 teams competing in attendance for that Super Bowl. I'm
Wait
sorry.
a minute.
I had
What,
to do
buddy?
it.
Come on.
I'm sorry. We all know what's going on in LA. On a real note, though, from a team standpoint, the Rams don't have a ton of competition to get out of the NFC, and I really love this Chargers team. Continuity on an already elite offense and significant upgrades on defense is the perfect recipe for success in this league. An all-LA Super Bowl is a real possibility in my eyes.
Yeah, we could get the Don't Worry Darling cast there for the Super Bowl, Jeff. That would be great for us.
Man, we could do a whole other show on that.
Okay.
Spitting and all sorts of liquids.
Yeah, Nick, what do you think? A lot of people high on the Chargers here. Don't know about the Rams so much.
Yeah, look, I like Justin Herbert, and they obviously got some talent over there with the Chargers, but no way. I'm not in on this one at all because I just look at the Chargers, just like this. The Chargers every single year. How many times have we seen this? And I know it's been under different leadership and everything like that, but every year it's like, oh, they got a ton of talent. They got this guy, that guy, all the way back to like LT. It's like, no, they never figured out. They never get it done. Sure, from fantasy perspective, we're going to get a lot from them, but that's about it. And with the Rams, like asking them to get back there again after winning it. And then you have Stafford coming in with like the injury concerns at the beginning of the year. I don't know. I don't love that. So, no, I'm out on this one.
Julian, what do we think?
Yeah, I would rather bet this than the 4 teams from one division to make the postseason, I guess, and you're getting way better odds. But again, it's not a play that I'm going after because number one, I think it's going to be really hard for the Rams or the Bengals. That said, either one to get back to the Super Bowl. And the AFC, again, like this ties back into the AFC West again. I like the Chargers. They should definitely be a playoff team. They could maybe make some noise. But they have to make the playoffs out of the toughest division in football. What if they don't? that's a real concern. So if I'm going to be betting a team to reach the Super Bowl, essentially, I want a little bit more of a guarantee, I guess, or stronger odds that they're going to have a clearer path to get there, get to the postseason, that is, at least. So for me, just too many moving parts going against both teams, whether it be because of the big year last year and maybe a little bit of a hangover, or all the moving parts in their own division, in their own conference in the AFC against the Chargers. So yeah, another one that I'm staying away from.
All right, what about a first-time Super Bowl winner here, Jules? Plus 200 are the odds you can get for yes, minus 250 for no. Keep in mind, the Jaguars are on here as well. A lot of high expectations for them this year.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't care about them, but the Bills, the Vikings, the Chargers, and the Bengals are the four teams I think most people would circle there. So I like that we're getting the plus money, and you get the Super Bowl favorite, I guess, in the Bills, but there's just too much downside here. Like the majority of these teams are on this list for a reason. You perfectly highlighted your Jacksonville Jaguars that have absolutely zero shot of getting this done. So again, it's the Bills, and then I guess like the Browns and Chargers are nice little upstart teams that could maybe take over and surpass the Bills in the AFC. Vikings maybe a dark horse in the NFC, but you essentially get no firepower from that conference here. It's probably going to be somebody that's won it. I'm just not willing to lay that price tag on it.
Jeff, you want to bet yes here? So teams we're talking: Bengals, Bills, Browns, Cardinals, Chargers, Falcons, Jags, Lions, Panthers, Texans, Titans, Vikings.
I love the value on yes just because of the Jaguars.
Thank you.
Emerson, I have to say. But in a real note, I think there's some value on yes here at plus money. The Bills are my Super Bowl pick right now. They have the best roster in the NFL from top to bottom. There are a lot of expectations for this team coming into the season, but then I think you also have a couple other serious contenders on that list with the Chargers and the Bengals and the Browns if things go right down the stretch of the season for them. I will say, however, I think Julian mentioned the Vikings, which I just find pretty hilarious at this point, and that just kind of shows how weak the NFC is this year. If we're talking about the Vikings as a potential dark horse to make it to the Super Bowl. That being said, I think there's some value on yes. I wouldn't necessarily put a lot of money on it, but I think that one of these teams can win a Super Bowl this year.
All right, Nick, you believe in any of these teams?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to go and you're definitely set on picking on one of these, I'm going to go with yes here. And I know we're not talking a whole hell of a lot about the Bengals throughout the course of this. And they got there last year. They have this experience. They have a ton of talent. I mean, just looking at them, and then you have some other teams. I know I just disparaged the Chargers, but they are a team that, yeah, could happen if things go, everything goes wrong for a lot of other teams. It could happen. You look at the Bills, too. They're everybody's favorite, of course. So, yeah, I like this mix that you have here at yes, and you're getting at plus 200. So, yeah, I'm definitely here for that one.
All right, Jules, quick on this last one. We let our first panel give their DFS MVP pick for the 2022 season. So why don't you take it away and tell us who you have in mind?
I think Jonathan Taylor is the clear-cut number one guy. That's why he's going number one in season-long drafts. Volume, he's in a good offense. He has a good offensive line. He's on a team that should win a lot of games and play with a good lead, good division games against Jacksonville and Houston to rack up some points. So, yeah, I think Taylor's the number one guy by a decent margin before you get everybody else in there.
Jeff, where are you going?
Austin Eckler's my guy this year. He's the best dual threat running back in the league. There's a chance he goes for 200-plus carries again and 75-plus receptions. On top of that, the touchdown upside's there. He got 20 last year. He could equal that this season. There's a lot to like about him from a DFS standpoint.
Nick, DFS MVP is going to be?
Jamar Chase. Look, Jonathan Taylor does jump out a lot to me as well, but I'm all in on the Bengals. And after Chase had a slow start to the year last year and everybody was concerned about him, he ended up putting up a lot of good numbers, coming into his second year in the league with a guy who he's worked with a ton throughout the course of his football career, not just his NFL career. I love the position he's in right now.
Wow, no one going with the elite Joe Flacco, who Ian Rappaport just tweeted, says that he will be starting for the Jets in week one against his former team with which he won a Super Bowl, the Ravens. He's $4,800 week one, by the way. Okay, guys, you're out of here. Jeff, Reed, and Pierce are back to bring us home right after this.
are back to take us home. It is our NFL season preview, part 3, part trace. Part trace. Jeff, according to the DK Sportsbook, the most likely outcome for the NFC title game is Packers versus Bucks at +600. But, what are some of the storylines that you think are going to help decide the NFC this season?
Yeah, I really do think it's going to come down to the development of Jalen Hurts and Trey Lance. These are two teams in San Francisco and Philadelphia who they need to make inroads. They need to make inroads on this elite trio, the Bucks, the Packers, and the Rams. And if these guys take off, if Trey Lance takes San Francisco to the next level, they could easily dethrone the Rams in that division. If Jalen Hurts gets himself to the next level, they're going to make some noise, potentially even challenge for the #1 seed. And they're going to try and put the hurt on these other, more veteran teams. So I think the NFC is really going to be about what these two quarterbacks do. I think that Green Bay is going to be fine. I think there's a chance that you see the Bucks regress, and we'll get to that maybe a little bit. But for the most part, those three teams are going to be pretty good, and they're certainly projected to be good. So I think the NFC is all about what these guys do. And these guys I'm talking about, Hurts and Lance, if they can bring their level of play up to the next notch, their teams are going to potentially be elite as well.
All right, Reed, you think some of these other teams could come in and usurp a Packers-Bucks title game?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many things that could happen in the course of a season. And Jeff mentions the quarterback's absolutely correct there in that estimation. It's also going to be the new coaching. The new coaching pedestals that these guys have. How's Brian Daboll going to be with the Giants? Are they not going to be the laughing stock of the NFC East? Is Dallas finally going to actually put things together with some continuity on the defensive side? We have no idea. And, I've talked about Minnesota ad nauseum, so I'll stay away from that. But, yeah, there's probably changing of the guard in some divisions. But I do think that there are question marks still. Who's going to, who gets the easiest path to the playoffs, essentially, into the Super Bowl? And it's going to come out of the NFC. Which team is that? Could it be someone that we're not even thinking about right now?
Pierce, do you think it's someone we're not even thinking about?
Yeah, it's someone that they're not thinking about, but it's someone that I have definitely been thinking about. The Seattle Seahawks are going to the playoffs. We're finally going to see Geno Smith's talent. Now that he has a decent wide receiver core, Seattle's improved their offensive line. Rashad Penny, if he can stay healthy, you get a good rookie campaign out of Ken Walker. And the defense, I've done my homework. I went through. The secondary looks good with Quadre Diggs, Sidney Jones. They brought in Artie Burns. They did 2 draft picks, improving their secondary. Got the free agent in Nwosa as a defensive end. He's on the upside. Darrell Taylor's going to have a good second season. The interior line is good. The only question mark on the defense are the linebackers. They've also got a new defensive coordinator, a slightly new scheme. Need to start thinking about the Seahawks. People are going to be surprised.
This is the regular take category. If the Seahawks are your regular take, what is your hot take? I don't even.
Buckle up.
Let's just go to the AFC. Let's just go to the
Buckle up. Buckle up, he says. Okay, then, Pierce, let's go to the AFC. So Bills-Chiefs matchup here's +700. That's the favorite for the AFC Championship game. But what other storylines are going to help decide this conference? What do you think here? Bills are Super Bowl favorites for the first time since '91.
Woo.
Yeah, actually don't buckle up. I'm going to go the chalky route and play the Chiefs. I don't see any reason not to play the Chiefs. They lost Tyreek Hill, one player. If Tyreek Hill was going to be that big of a loss, do we really think a seasoned veteran coach like Andy Reid would let him go? If he thought that this was going to completely ruin their chances of winning, there's no way. They would have found a way to sign Tyreek Hill. They knew that they could replace him and make the offense work. We know that the defense has gotten better. And I know people love to talk. You just spent the last segment talking about how the NFC West has gotten so much better, but they really haven't. Not much has really changed. I see different names on the pages for these teams, but we all know that the Chiefs are still the best team there. The Chiefs have a huge home field advantage. And when they go to the playoffs, as long as Mahomes doesn't melt down in the second half, or they don't go for a stupid 4th down on the goal line at the end of the half, we could be talking about the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl last year and then repeating this year.
All right, Reed T. Fowler, storylines here. Jags, Chargers +18,000.
Oh, man. We should be sponsored by the Jaguars at this point. But it's going to be a war of attrition. Let's just stay away from one specific team in the Chiefs. Pierce is living in 2018 where the Seahawks and the Kansas City Chiefs are the team. And look, he's right about Mahomes and Andy Reid. But there's so many places that you can go. Is Lamar Jackson the Ravens? Can they stay healthy? And like what the Gojo guy said, can he put on a performance like he did when he won MVP? Okay, what about the Colts? How are they going to look with Matt Ryan, Jonathan Taylor, and now Michael Pittman? That defense losing their guy in Eberflus. How are they going to look like? It's going to be who's going to be the healthiest. The war of attrition. These guys are going to beat up on each other throughout the entire season. It's going to be who the last man standing is and who gets lucky in terms of not getting injured. That's kind of how it went for the Rams last year. Not saying that all they did was luck, but they didn't have any depth and they didn't have any key injuries. So that's going to be a key part and a key storyline for the AFC.
What do you think here, Jeff? I know you're a big Broncos guy, so you can get Bills Broncos plus 1,100.
I mean, I do like it. I think that the AFC is going to be all about the AFC West. You can pretty much lock in the Bills outside of like some black swan event. The Bengals are going to be good again, but I just can't put them on the same level as the Bills. I don't really care what happens in the AFC South. I think the Colts are going to be a big letdown. It's who can come out of the AFC West, like Reed alluded to, healthy with the good schedule in a good position to challenge the Bills. The Chargers, the Chiefs, the Broncos. I think they all have the horses to do it. I really do. And yes, let's ride. Let's ride with the Broncos. I mean, I think this is the team that went through the biggest transformation. I think they're the team that's being slept on the most as well. And I think they've got a lot of the positive momentum. They don't have these like skeletons in the closet. They're not going through like a wide receiver regime change. They don't have the Chargers history. I think Russell Wilson is going to bring a lot of swag to that team. And yes, I will pick them to come out there. And I will go with the Broncos Bills for my AFC Championship matchup.
All right, guys, more than any other league, right, we see teams go from the basement to a playoff spot in the NFL every year. Like the Bengals,
I remember them.
4-11-1 in 2020 to a Super Bowl with Joe Burr himself. So who's the dark horse that we're sleeping on right now, Jeff?
There's so many bad. Let's just get really
Say
egregious
it. Say
here.
it.
Let's
Okay.
go with the New York. Let's go with the New York Football Giants.
Wow.
It just feels sick. Like I feel sick just mentioning this team as a playoff team, but you really have to look at all the factors. I think that the schedule for the Giants is going to be quite favorable. And I think that they've got, obviously we like the Eagles, but like, I think that, there's a chance that one of the Eagles or the Cowboys just aren't as good as people think. I don't think that the Cowboys are some infallible team that can't be taken down. When you look at the scheduling, when you look at some of the pieces that the Giants have added, I think that bringing in an offensive-minded head coach is going to unlock Saquon Barkley. Daniel Jones has shown some competency. I think that he can certainly take his stuff to the next level. And the Giants defense, it wasn't that bad last year, and they've added some nice pieces. I guess these guys got to get healthy and stay on the field. But I do think the Giants have a path to potentially, grab that last playoff spot. So, again, the NFC after the first 7 teams, it's just like it's just going to be like, rats struggling to get out from the gutter kind of thing. So I'm going to go with the Giants as my pick here. I think that the schedule is really going to be in their favor, and I think that, they're going to be able to pull off enough upsets.
All right, Pierce, real quick, dark horse we're sleeping on right now.
Well, no one's really sleeping on them, but it's the Ravens. They're going to go from a non-playoff team to a playoff team simply just because they've become healthy. It's going to be tough in that division, but they just have too much talent to miss the playoffs again.
Reed, why are you going with the Raiders?
They weren't bad. They made the playoffs last year. No, let's go with the Lions and the Vikings on the NFC side. Everyone loves the Lions. They have the best offensive line basically in that entire division, in that conference. So give me the Lions. They're dead last in the NFC. And also give me the Vikings.
We will wrap up this award-winning show, The Sweat, presented by Paramount Plus, with your hottest take entering the NFL season. Pierce Dietrich, you've teased it. It's time to deliver.
How about we get the Jags going to the playoffs? And if we pretend that the AFC West just beats up on each other, the AFC East beats up on each other, the AFC North will definitely beat up on each other. And as they mentioned earlier, the AFC South is terrible. There's a chance that they could have a pretty good record in their division. So don't sleep on the Jags.
This has been the greatest show in the history of the Sweat's history. Go ahead, Reed T. Fowler. You can't top that. And that's a fact. That's not even a hot take.
I mean, the amount of brown-nosing that we have on this show with the stupid Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh.
I mean, give me a break.
Easy.
The Raiders? No, I'm kidding. I think T.
They're
Higgins
gonna win
outscores
the AFC
Jamar
West.
Chase.
Okay.
T. Higgins outscores Jamar Chase. That's what I think for the entire season. I think he's the guy that does it. Jamar Chase, I think, rest is. Sorry, Fryer, you're wrong in your Jamar Chase take. I think it's T. Higgins.
Fryer admitted off camera he hasn't showered in 3 days, too. So, Jeff, go ahead.
That's
Your
not
hottest
true.
take, bro.
I've already given my DFS hot take that A.J. Dillon is going to score the most touchdowns in the league. So I'm going to go and give an even a hotter take than Pierce. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to miss the playoffs.
Yes!
This O-line issue, they're replacing a Hall of Fame tight end with Kyle Rudolph. People just don't care. Chris Godwin not starting the season. They're bringing in guys, Gage and Julio Jones. Is going to be the same offense? I don't think so. The Bucs going to miss the playoffs. The Saints are going to win the NFC South, and they're going to go to the NFC Conference Championship game as well.
All right, those
I
takes
think
were piping hot.
They were. I also think Brady retires by week 10.
Okay, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, hey,
that
mark the
is
tape.
a show, everybody. Madden starts at noon. We got the slate at 5 p.m. That's going to be you.
Yep. And the hot
Reed,
take jabronis.
and Jeff with more NFL stuff. And then we'll be back tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., so we'll see you then.
Toodles.
Boo Jags.